Hello and happy All Saints Day. Welcome to the 12th edition of Disney 101. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us here today. And can you believe it, Steve? We have hit 12 episodes. This is the dozenth edition of Disney 101.
Soon we'll be able to see for the dozens and dozens of episodes that we've done.
That's right. That's right. We've hit a dozen, which to me is pretty crazy because it really is something that we started this just kind of an idea while we were shooting the breeze. It was something that was say about 6 months or so in the making before we got things rolling, and we've made it to a dozen episodes. So I feel like that is certainly something to maybe give a small pat on the back for.
Definitely.
How was your Halloween? Did you eat a lot of candy? Did you do anything special on Halloween itself?
You know, it's kind of weird. I feel like since we went to the Halloween party a couple of weeks ago, we already celebrated it. So there's so much lead up to the actual holiday, especially down here, where when it actually comes, it's almost a little anticlimactic. We didn't really get a whole lot of trick-or-treaters, but the ones that we did get were, we got, I didn't really see any unique costumes this year, at least in kids trick-or-treating. When we go to the parks, there's a lot of unique costumes that you go and see, and that's really cool. But there was a lot of, superheroes, and there were a lot of, I don't know if you've ever seen, but the blow up T-Rex costumes.
I've seen those around. They seem like they've been a little popular. They're pretty insane.
There were 4 or 5 of them, and also I'm a teacher, obviously, and so in school they got to dress up too, and there was 5 or 6 different T-Rexes running around, and I'm like, how?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they breathe in there. I don't know how people move around so much. They actually did a costume battle royal at a wrestling show for NXT. And one of the wrestlers dressed up in that costume and wrestled in the Battle Royal in that huge T-Rex costume. And was able to. It's very, very. I guess they must have the air vent inside or something like that.
There is, and I know there's a fan in at least the ones that I saw that it helps to keep it blown up. So that's probably got to help. And I'm sure there's vents and stuff.
Yeah. I kind of went a little casual. I threw this guy on here, and then threw a little hat on, and I felt like in honor of Halloween, I'll keep this on, for the remainder of the episode.
Please do.
I'm not going to keep it. Be great if I did keep it on there. My hair is now all bed hair and awful. But I wanted to, we did have a pretty crazy Halloween festivities. We were all over the place. On Saturday night, we were down here in New York City. We went to it was a nonprofit that was running a big to-do, a big costume party. We were all dressed up. It was only $20 to get in. They gave you 2 free drinks, unlimited bottles of water, unlimited snacks, and bags of chips. And they had some really good acts there. They had Laid Back Luke, and they had Cruella doing DJ sets. So that was really fun. We danced the night away, and then I went to the WWE Evolution show on Sunday night, and that kind of was like a WWE version of the Disney Halloween costume party. So many cosplays, so many folks running around. My wife ran around as Ronda Rousey, and some other folks were dressed up as some of the older WWE divas. And then by the time, as you said, by the time Halloween came around yesterday, it was like we'd already done so much over the weekend that we kind of relaxed and ended up so we made a bad call because my wife said, hey, we're in an apartment complex. I don't think we're not going to get any trick-or-treaters, no reason to buy candy. What we ended up doing was underestimating the folks that were going to come here and basically just bang on every single one of the buttons in every apartment complex. And a couple of youngsters got into our lobby there and started pounding on the door, screaming, I know you're in there, because they had seen me enter that place a couple of minutes prior. And I felt so bad I had no candy, so I didn't have anything to give them. My wife said I should have given them some vegan hot dogs, but I don't know if that would have gotten over so well. But bad call on our part.
You would have gotten that one no good kid that would have picked up and cursed at you and throw it back at your door.
That's
I don't
right.
know who does that.
That's right. Circa, I think it was 2003, and getting raisins because we were a little too old to be trick or treating. But I will say, I know that I'm now an old cranky curmudgeon. When there was a youngster that came yesterday, we'd gone to our goddaughter's house and my sister-in-law's house, and everyone was hanging out, and we had a little costume party, and greeted all the trick or treaters, and then we ordered some pizza at a little pizza party. The pizza was supposed to get there around 9:15. Doorbell rings. We run to open the door, and there's a couple of kids standing there with bags that are probably right on that age where maybe they're getting a little too big to be out there trick-or-treating. And they were there ready to trick-or-treat instead. And at 9:15, I was blown away and quite angry, I guess, that folks would be out there trick-or-treating in the middle of the night. But it is what it is.
I mean, I'm pretty sure we were out trick-or-treating pretty late, too.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I know there's definitely times we pushed it till 10 o'clock, if not later. But now that, you got little kids at home, and I'd say 8:30, 9 o'clock is probably the cutoff of when you should be out there trick-or-treating. But one of the things I did also want to quickly get into here, right at the top, I actually have a question for you based on your time working in the parks. That I did not ask you off air, and hopefully you'll be able to kind of help out with this. I know, it's bad stuff there. Actually, can you wiggle your little device around because you seem a little fuzzy on your end? Let's see here. All right, and let's try again. See how it works. You're still a little fuzzy. Should you try to disconnect and potentially come back?
Yeah, let me try and do that.
All right. Steve's going to disconnect, and then he will be back here in 1 second. This is just a quick reminder, guys. If you'd like, you can follow us over on Twitter. We are currently live at Disney 101 Pod, and you could also follow myself at Tommy on the Spot. Though most Disney-related content, honestly, we're over there taking some turns there on working the Disney 101 Pod Twitter, and definitely subscribe. This week we had a couple fun little videos up there. Actually had some technical. Oh, Steve's looking great, by the way. Crystal clear on that.
Right, perfect. Okay.
There we go. Yeah, we ended up putting up some videos yesterday. From my time over in Disneyland, have a bunch more of those coming up, including some that I'm still editing that I didn't get done before Halloween. But we'll still put them up anyway if you guys want to reminisce and kind of look back. But my question for you, Steve, is today at the Magic Kingdom, it was officially unveiled, the big festive decorations for Christmas at Disney's Magical Kingdom, at the Magic Kingdom, Disney's Magical Kingdom, at the Magic Kingdom over in Walt Disney World. And so my question to you is, with this being unveiled today, and yesterday I'm assuming they still had the decorations up for Halloween, how do they turn it around so fast?
You have a lot of people working pretty much overnight and through the night into getting all of that taken off. And yeah, just manpower and people just, getting stuff done.
Yeah, I was thinking, because with such a quick turnaround, going from the Halloween decorations over to the Christmas decorations, if you figure the fact that I think Magic Kingdom yesterday closed at 12, if I'm not mistaken, might have been a little earlier than that. You figure people lollygag around the park and probably don't get out of there until at least an hour, maybe 2 hours more, would you say, until after the park closes?
Not usually more than an hour after. Because the thing is that basically once it strikes midnight or whenever the park closes, actually, that's the last people that are getting on whatever ride. So, and usually anything that has a long ride time, like any movies and stuff like that, they always end up closing early anyway. So usually anything like that, everybody is out of the park, because especially if it's like a party night, there's all the fireworks and everything out have already happened. So there's nothing really that's keeping people around except for running rides and like that kind of stuff. So basically once 12 o'clock hits, everything shuts down, and you are very, very, very politely asked to leave as soon as you can.
I gotcha. Yeah, I guess from my vantage point, I always use that last time there after the ride to take a couple last minute photos, hit a couple of gift shops, maybe get some ice cream or some snacks or some caramel apples before we hit the road. But I guess you're right. I guess I don't think it's ever taken that long as I think about it now.
Yeah, and I know for on my end, whenever we were close to the attraction and we said, okay, this attraction is clear of guests, everything, blah blah blah, maintenance, and we handed over to maintenance basically. Maintenance just they're on and they're ready. They're waiting to go and do whatever they need to do. So it's probably the same thing here, where it's okay, once this land is closed of guests and we're done, then that the people can go in and start making those changes.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I figured. I mean, if you figure, let's say everyone's out of the park by 1 a.m. and the park opens at 8, they're basically probably just pounding and working. Maybe some cast members getting a little OT last night, but apparently first thing this morning, everything that you were there. So I guess your real time to want to go to the parks would be to experience everything would be Halloween week, because you'd be able to get the Halloween party and be able to get started on the Christmas celebration.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, and is food and wine is finished, correct?
No,
still going.
2 more weeks. Yeah, I got 2 more weeks of it.
Wow.
So this coming weekend is the Wine and Dine Half Marathon weekend.
Are you doing that?
No. No.
I know you're doing the villain. You're doing the villain marathon.
The villain one that's in Paris that I really, really wish that I could go to.
The start. What's the one you're doing?
We usually do the Star Wars one.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
yeah.
That's not till the middle of the year though, right?
That's in April.
April, gotcha.
Yeah,
I feel like this is the time to go there. You still got food and wine. You've got Halloween that just closed. You just have the holidays. If you want like 1 week of the year to get down to the parks, this is the week to go. I blew it. I went a week early and ended up going to Disneyland there because little did I know, I just hung out. Now I do think Disneyland, I think it's a little longer of a transition, but if you're in WDW, that's crazy. There's so much going on.
Yeah. Well, and part of the thing, I started looking and I was like, wow, one of the things that kind of caught me that, we might want to get into next week about like the holidays and stuff is how the big difference between how much the tickets are for like a Halloween party versus a Christmas party. And I'm pretty sure I stumbled onto the reason, but we'll save that for maybe next week if we're going to do our holiday primer next week.
Yeah. Next week, everybody was going to save this for the end, but Steve buried the lead here. Next week we are going to be doing our big holidays at the parks primer. The rides you have to ride, the things you need to see, the photo ops, the food you want to eat, all that stuff, all the treats. We'll have all that getting ready. Disney's answer to Elf on a Shelf. If you haven't seen that, we'll reveal that next week. We'll talk about all of that, and it's one of the things there. What's going on out there? Laser Cat, who's joined the chat. Thanks so much for checking us out there, by the way. And very, very cool. And it's great to be on there. And so that will happen next week. This week, we're going to get into our fantasy attractions. But before we do get in there, we wanted to quickly talk about a huge story that dropped a little bit after we went off the air last week. The Daily Mail dropped something that it appears Johnny Depp has been dropped from the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. It says superstar Johnny Depp has been dropped from the Pirates of the Caribbean film franchise as Disney Studios plans a major reboot. Disney Mail TV can reveal. Depp was the major lead in 5 Pirates movies over the past 15 years, but it appears Captain Jack Sparrow has made his final voyage on the Black Pearl. Original Pirates scriptwriter Stuart Beadle is the first to publicly confirm that Disney Studios appears to be ditching the star as they rework the entire franchise. Depp, 55, who has been dogged by personal dramas over the past 4 years, saw his last outing as Sparrow in Dead Men Tell No Tales, which became the lowest performing movie of the films. Speaking exclusively to Daily Mail TV at a red carpet event in Hollywood, Beadle confirmed on camera the reboot means Johnny Depp is out as Sparrow. He added, I think he's had a great run. Obviously, he's made the character his own, and it's become the character he's most famous for now. And kids all over the world love him as that character. So I think it's been great for him. It's been great for us. So I'm just very, very happy about it. That's pretty crazy, is it not?
That is pretty crazy. Yeah. Hold on. Sorry. I was getting like a random call. Like
That's all
one
right.
of the tell
No, no worries.
as I mean, it's like sad to say, not very surprising, at least on my part. I mean, they have kind of gotten progressively weaker. I guess I could, you could kind of say. I know, people still go out to see them, but in my mind, it's like the Fast and the Furious movies. Like, how many of these can you really have of the same people doing more or less the same thing? Like, okay, you're on ships, you need to get somewhere, something's blocking your way, there's some sort of supernatural shenanigans going on, and then Johnny Depp, or Captain Jack does something kind of maybe out of character at the last second to, save the day. But there's only so much you can do for a character like that as far as development goes before it starts becoming stale, and it got stale about 3 movies ago.
Well, you say that, but if you think about it, I actually pulled this up here. The worldwide box office totals for all 5 of these movies here that was the star of. So number one, The Curse of the Black Pearl, the first one, $654 million at the box office. Dead Man's Chest bumped up to $1.066 billion at World's End, 963 million. On Stranger Tides, 1.045 billion. And then the last one, rounding it out, Dead Men Tell No Tales, 795 million. So I think the last one, maybe that big drop off there with the last one was kind of like a, hey, things are kind of getting a little bit rough, and maybe with people kind of jumping ship a bit, maybe it's time to just move on.
Yeah, I mean, I love Pirates of the Caribbean. I love I really liked the at least kind of like the first two. The third one is kind of iffy, and then I don't know, in my mind they sort of kind of got, there's this law of diminishing returns where, again, like, how much can you go back to the same well before it starts drying up? Like, at least, yeah, with, Marvel, with the Marvel movies, the cinematic universe, there's so many movies, but they're all different in their own different ways. So I feel like it's kind of, especially when you have such a formulaic thing and you're relying so much on the Jack Sparrow popularity, where when you rely on that too much and then the story suffers and everything else suffers, is when you kind of start saying, well, maybe we should kind of rethink this. And I think, it's probably a good idea to go in a little bit different direction to kind of keep it fresh, at least.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, I totally get that. I think at the end of the day, the crazier part for me is because they've updated the ride and the attractions, and they're so focused on him. And I think you were the one who was telling me this. Isn't the deal now that if Captain Jack Sparrow signs his autograph, doesn't Johnny Depp own the rights to the autograph?
Yeah, there's something like that where, especially, it's more particularly in Disneyland, where he'll like to show up in Disneyland, where basically, if you, I don't think it's true because I'm pretty sure you can get Captain Jack's signature in other places, but there was something where, like, oh, if he gives you your autograph, that's really Jack Sparrow. I don't know if that's 100% true. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so I don't know.
It didn't suck. I always thought that was completely insane, but would have been cool nonetheless. So yeah, so that was kind of a big news story that broke last week. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about this week, though, is it does appear that they got rid of the iconic film strip on that road to Disney's Hollywood Studios. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I did actually hear about. I actually I heard about it on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's and apparently that entrance into the parks now, just in case, that's an entrance you like to do. If you're like me, you like to take a photo there. I was always someone who would try to figure out a way to kind of jump over to the side there and maybe get a couple of photos on that strip. And now that's gone. I'm bummed I never fully got to take advantage of that. But if you are someone who likes to do that, you can't even go through it. It's only for cast members now. And they are super strict. Let me tell you, from the time down in Disneyland when we were walking and just simply wanted to walk through the parking lot, that was specifically for cast members. They will not allow you to do that.
I mean, I won't go into
actually,
too much about the backstage.
What's it? Say that one more time.
I won't go too much into the backstageness of Walt Disney World and that kind of stuff and how easy or not easy it is to get around. But suffice to say, there's another opening that's going to happen, or it either is happening or already happened or something, where it's going to be on Osceola Parkway, which is the main road that Animal Kingdom is also on. There's a couple of other kind of things that you can do. Osceola Parkway, it's just a road here in Central Florida, but it passes directly through Walt Disney World property, and it's the road that you take when you get onto the Animal Kingdom main entrance. So I think they're doing a main entrance there, and I think they're just trying to figure out the best way for crowd control and cars and traffic and that kind of stuff, logistically, because they're kind of gearing up for, okay, Star Wars Land is going to be big. Like, there's no way around that. There's going to have to be a way to control the huge influx of new traffic that Hollywood Studios is going to see. So they have to expand the parking lot. They have to figure out new ways to get people there and that kind of stuff. It's going to be a logistical nightmare, in my opinion.
Yeah, that sounds insane. But still, what are your thoughts on the big iconic film strip being taken away?
I honestly think it's just the next inevitable step in them rebranding the park anyway. It was leaked a couple of years ago by, I believe it was none other than Bob Iger that kind of let it slip that Hollywood Studios was going to get renamed at some point. And I think it's just going to be the next step in them, kind of moving slowly away from this, Hollywood Studios feel. And it's just the next logical step in that happening.
Gotcha. And did he say what it was going to be renamed?
No, it kind of like he let the cat out of the bag, not really smoothly. It was like there was some sort of question, and he was about to say something, and then there's audio of like him going, "Oh, has that been announced yet? Are we talking about this?" And he was like, "Oh, well." And then said one more sentence about the fact that Hollywood Studios is going to get renamed, and then nothing else. And then he completely moved on from it. So it was like one of those oh, wait, no, I'm not supposed to say that. I already said too much. Oh, okay, anyway. And then moved on from it. So there's that. So I think, there's a lot of other things that they've kind of slowly started to do to move away from this kind of feel.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's definitely a little dated, the Hollywood Studios name. I always thought once they got rid of MGM Studios, they should have just figured out something else for it anyway. But it is what it is. It's a little sad. Whenever there's that something iconic that's taken away, like but they've been doing this with Hollywood Studios because they got rid of the what was it, the big sorcerer hat.
Yeah, but that was only really supposed to be around for the 2000 millennial celebration anyway. So it was one of those things where oh, people like it, so it stuck around. Pretty much like Illuminations. Illuminations was pretty much only for the 2000, the millennial celebration. And when it happened and everybody liked it, it kind of stuck around. Well, okay, we'll keep it until we can think of something to replace it. And, the sad thing was that the park icon, if you will, Hollywood, Magic Kingdom has Cinderella's Castle, Epcot has Spaceship Earth, Animal Kingdom has the Tree of Life. Hollywood Studios park icon was originally the Eiffel Tower, that big water tower that had the Mickey ears on it, but they took that away too. So it was okay, so we can take the sorcerer hat away. Okay, so it's just going to be going back to the original park icon, right? It's going to be the Eiffel Tower. No, we're taking that away too. So what's going to be the park icon now? Tower of Terror. Yeah, sure.
Oh crap! You're right. The Eiffel Tower is gone. I've been there so many times and not even noticed that it was gone.
It went away pretty much as soon as everything else started going away. When they started clearing the backlot tour and everything else, when they started clearing that whole area away, it was one of the first things to go.
So now they're thinking. So now the park icon is technically Tower of Terror.
I guess, yeah.
That's crazy. By the way, I'm not going to get too much into just based on time here. I did notice as I was going through some things. The Boba Fett movie's been canceled. Did you hear about this?
I did, and it was one of those things where it was like, yeah, like I get it. Boba Fett kind of got this weird cult following because like he like has cool armor and like that kind of stuff. But he's he has like you can count like his minutes of his time like on screen time in like 10, 15 minutes, maybe. I think it's
Yeah.
less than that. And he has like 2 lines of dialogue and that's in the whole thing. And he is like one of the most popular Star Wars characters. And I think it's because he was recognizable and he was kind of like mysterious. Not a lot of was known about him. And then we got him as, the like 8-year-old kid in the prequels. And then like, that's it. So there wasn't really a whole lot to have to do with him. And then people were like itching to know more about him. And then it was like, all right, well, we're going to be doing side characters. So here's a solo movie. And then the solo movie, relatively speaking, bombed. And then they were like, oh, well, I guess people don't want, the side movies anymore. So we're just going to scrap Boba Fett from everything, which is the one that people a little bit more wanted. But I feel like the Boba Fett popularity is starting to kind of maybe reduce a little bit, kind of veer off a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think, and I think honestly that makes sense to, there's only so many of these spin-offs they could make. I mean, I personally would love a spin-off on like Chewbacca and figuring out why, how he became so close with everybody. I mean, I know technically a little bit of the, there's been a couple others that he's in, right?
So he was in the prequels very briefly. He was also he's been in a couple of the TV shows, like he's made cameos in some of the animated TV shows. And then he's in Solo, which I mean, really, all people most want to know is how he ended up hooking up with Han Solo, getting together, So it was, they were thrown together in prison. And okay, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. So that I think would be a lot of fun, like figuring out what they did, how they got in prison together,
Right. And I think there's a lot of it but I mean, that kind of stuff probably, I feel like it makes more sense. They've started to explore more in the novels, and for a long, not to get off on a Star Wars tangent, but there's dozens of Star Wars books that came out pretty much after the original trilogy started, and then a little bit before the prequels came up into the prequels, and then years after that. There's a huge amount of like expanded universe stuff that when Disney bought the rights to Star Wars and said, okay, we're going to make new movies, they basically said, okay, none of this is canon anymore. So canon, the Star Wars movies, that the original trilogy, the prequel, Clone Wars, Rebels, and like going on from there, and like new trilogy and that kind of stuff. But since then, there's been about 4 or 5. Well, actually, there's a bunch of books that have come out since then that are canon now, that I think they could explore that kind of stuff, like Chewbacca, like Boba Fett. That's more stuff that I feel like they could kind of pursue more in book and novel form, or even graphic novel form, because graphic novels are also a big, the Darth Vader graphic novels and like a bunch of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that they have now reintroduced as canon that they could probably explore. That those are probably the mediums to explore that kind of stuff. Maybe not a Boba Fett movie.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that makes sense. It'll be interesting to watch on there. Is there anything else kind of moving on here that news-wise that you wanted to touch on?
The only thing that I thought was kind of interesting was that along with Wreck-It Ralph doing a meet and greet now with the release of the new movie coming out in a couple of weeks, they've also kind of teased that he's also going to appear somehow in the Imagination Pavilion where Figment is.
Oh, wow.
Again, it's one of those things where there's not a lot of details on it. They've kind of teased stuff, and once you give Disney rumors one breadcrumb, they're speculating on what the whole loaf is going to look like. So people are saying, oh, well, there's going to be a Wreck-It Ralph overlay with the attraction and all this stuff. But I feel like it's just way too short notice for that to actually be a thing. So it's probably going to be some sort of meet and greet, maybe something in that the post ride area where like all of like the music is and like that the image works, the What If Labs, that area. There's probably something interesting that's going to be on over there.
Oh damn. That yeah, I think something's gonna happen with this Wreck-It Ralph. I mean, we keep hearing all these rumors, and they clearly want this new movie to be the next, I guess, Incredibles, so to speak. Because when Incredibles came out, I feel like it was big. When Incredibles 2 came out, I feel like it was just freaking massive. I saw many Incredibles costumes all over the place during Halloween weekend. The trio costume of Mr. Incredible, Elastic Girl, and Frozone, a big one. That I saw a couple of times, and I think obviously they want Wreck-It Ralph to be somewhat similar to that franchise, at least in popularity.
Yeah, and I think it's got all of the right things in it to make it successful. You got the nostalgia factor in all of like the classic video games that it makes reference to, and it has I mean, especially with this new movie with Vanellope meeting off the Disney princesses and stuff. That's like nostalgia baked in right there with all of the other stuff that you have to do with it. So, and like it's self-referencing and there's a lot of inside jokes and like that kind of stuff. So it's going to be it's going to be a success one way or the other, but I think it's again, one of those like prime things that they can take full of. There's so many different things that you can do with a Wreck-It Ralph themed attraction that I think it's just that they have to figure out the best place and they want to get it right this time, So
yeah.
like it's coming at some point, it has to, but it's just until that happens, there's going to be so many announcements.
Excellent. And I guess just to close off the news thing, just because I did throw it in our description there, it was announced that $13 million of renovations are going into the Comfort Inn Orlando Lake Buena Vista and the Royal Park Suites in Kissimmee. And I guess they're becoming IHG brand hotels. And this is big news amongst the Disney community. Are these like Disney affiliate hotels?
I don't know.
I'm not too sure either. I mean, I'll quickly read. I'm getting this from WDW News today. As reported by the Orlando Sentinel's Growth Spotter, the Comfort Inn will be converted to a Crown Plaza and will be the first to utilize a new work-life prototype room. It'll also receive a new splash pad area as well as other upgrades. It's a little different design, very modern, spacious, and light, said Global CFO Alex Fridzon. It works very well for business and leisure and is very tech-friendly. Work has already also begun on the Royal Port as the exterior has seen renovations occur to make it brand compatible as an IHG Staybridge Suites, but each of the 224 rooms will be gutted and completely redone by floor. Both hotels will be available soon for booking through IHG. But 20% increase in average daily room rates is expected as a result of reservations, which is obvious if you're going to be. So I'm guessing this is the reason why they reported this story. IHG, I'm almost positive from when we ridiculously purchased a timeshare in Orlando, another story for another day. I believe that's the company that you can go and book things through on that website. I'll do a little more research on this. I just saw this pop up.
What was the name again?
The two hotels.
Yeah.
The Comfort Inn Orlando Lake Buena Vista.
Yes.
And I'm sorry.
And what's the other one?
Royal Park Suites in Kissimmee.
So it looks like the first one is a Good Neighbor Hotel.
Gotcha.
For Walt Disney World. And really quick for those that don't know what a Walt Disney World Good Neighbor Hotel is, basically it's something that is on or near Disney property, but is not technically owned by Disney, and it's not an actual Disney resort. So you get some of the perks of staying on Disney property, like close proximity to the parks, like complimentary transportation to the parks and stuff like that, but you normally don't benefit from things like extra magic hours.
Gotcha. Well, that is pretty cool, and I'm sure it's also much more affordable than if you were to stay on property itself.
Yes.
So that's why WDW News today. And if you do want to check them out, wdwnt.com. Great site. Can't recommend it enough. You can check that out there and get more information as that unfolds. But that is going to do it for our news portion this week. Already some stuff read. I'm ready to go for next week's show to talk about some news bits in case nothing else happens over the next week. But I feel like we wanted to get to our main topic here, fantasy attractions. Now, this is a topic, a brainchild of you, Steve. You originally came up with this. Do you have any rules for these fantasy attractions as we get into them here?
No rules at all, because when I started thinking about this, I went from very specific to kind of vague to very vague. So, I mean, yeah, I kind of ran the gambit here as far as what I thought of when I think dream attractions.
Excellent. Very cool. Well, would you like to kick it off, or should I get going with one of mine?
I'll start it off.
Right.
So, because we kind of also alluded to Wreck-It Ralph and kind of taking over the Imagination Pavilion, something that I always thought that would be awesome for them to do, either as an add-on to the Imagination Pavilion, or maybe instead of if and when they ever retire Figment and the actual Journey into Imagination with Figment,
we can all hope.
For them to replace it or add on to it with a Phineas and Ferb roller coaster attraction. Now, that could mean a bunch of different things, but my original vision of it, because if you've ever seen Phineas and Ferb, the TV show, the quick elevator pitch of it is basically these two kids over summer break have to think of something new to do each day, and they're like genius engineer, basically people, kids that build crazy stuff, like the most ridiculous, outlandish things that you can possibly do. And their sister always tries to like bust them for doing this crazy stuff and then whatever. So the first episode, and they've kind of revisited a couple of times within the series, is the first thing is they build the best roller coaster ever. And that's what they want to do. And they go and like they build this absolutely crazy one that like goes into space and does these crazy loops and like all of these other crazy features that you'd never actually be able to reproduce in real life. They were able to get away with it because it's a cartoon. But in order to do that, you could do a either virtual reality type ride, kind of similar to an attraction that they've done at SeaWorld, where you go and it's an actual roller coaster, but you have virtual reality headsets on to make you basically, the stuff that's around you is going on and it's all sorts of crazy. Or you could do something similar to what they did with the Simpsons ride at Universal and do it where it's more of just like your standard motion simulator, or maybe some sort of hybrid version within there. But I always thought, because it fits in great with the idea of this Imagination Pavilion, and Phineas and Ferb at the time when I kind of thought of this idea, it was like at the height of their popularity, but I still think it would be really cool to see some sort of Phineas and Ferb attraction and for it to be like this roller coaster type ride.
That sounds incredible. And I know Phineas and Ferb was at one point very, very popular and is certainly something that it still has that amount of popularity, and I like it. Good stuff. So for me, not changing things up too much from the attraction itself, but I thought about this actually while I was in Disneyland, and I thought it would be fun if they did a soaring around the Disney universe. So you take this soaring around the world attraction, and rather than doing going through every single country around the world that they showcase, instead you're going to every Disney park around the world. And so this can kind of start off in one of two different directions. It can kind of do a deal where you could end up in just the Disney parks around the United States, or it could be something where you end up in the parks around the world themselves. And basically you're soaring from all these different things and seeing the attractions and seeing all the different, pavilions, different things to that extent that are specific to those hotels. It actually works as a great little marketing tool for Disney as well, because if someone sees something like the Tron attraction, they're going to want to go to Disneyland Shanghai. If somebody sees something like I know it's coming, but the Ratatouille attraction, maybe they're going to want to go over to Disneyland Paris. and at the same time be able to do that. And I thought maybe if it changes up from time to time, I always like the idea that Star Tours has different attractions and you never know what you're getting. So I think, you know, kind of soaring around the Disney universe, you never know what you're going to end up experiencing as you go through it. And it can be a little something different each time.
I think that would be really cool. I like the idea that you're getting a unique experience every time you go in. I love that about you know, things like the Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor. It's one of my favorite rides because it's always something different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. All right, what is next on your list here?
So, oh, I'm getting a really weird feedback.
Are you? Do you want to disconnect and come back?
Maybe. I hear it on your end. I'm hearing me like a second after I'm talking on your end.
Really? Let me try to hang on 1 second here. Could be something. Let me do this. All right. Is it better now?
Let me see. Nope, I'm still getting
it. You're still getting it?
Yeah. So it's almost like when you're on speakerphone with someone and they're talking, and then you can hear yourself talking on their end.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, why don't you disconnect and try to jump back on and see kind of how that goes there. While Steve is off readjusting here, I'd like to remind you guys that you can follow us over on Twitter at Disney101pod. And we're putting up a lot of different pictures. I put up some photos from while I was in Disneyland just a couple of weeks ago, and some videos as well. We have a complete review of Goofy's Kitchen coming up, a little review video from there. And we also have a little review of my wife's first trip on the Incredicoaster. She's a total scaredy cat, but she did get on the Incredicoaster, and so we have a review of that coming up as well, and tons of great content here, hopefully for you guys to enjoy on our YouTube page.
All right, I'm back. Let's see if that works.
Did they work?
I'm still getting it, but I'm going to lower volume on my end so that I can hear it as much as it's probably only bothering me.
Gotcha. You sound a little slightly muffled, but you sound pretty good. I could always try to disconnect. Do you want me to try to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but it just started happening.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know if I disconnect. I don't know if the entire broadcast will end. So
that might.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we'll stay on here. We'll try to power through, I guess. Do you want to start talking about your next attraction and see how that goes?
Yeah, I can try and do that. I'll just try and talk really fast so that I don't actually hear myself.
Yeah, we're not hearing you afterwards, I don't think. So that's good.
Okay, good. So I'm going to take this from actually a particular article that I found because it's the one that I'm doing is very specific.
Actually, Steve, we do because I just pulled up the live feed, and for whatever reason, we do hear you talking afterwards. Like I do hear you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like because I see you basically on my big screen, and I know basically I'm getting you as an echo on your feed.
On my feed. I'm going to try to close this. I'm going to try to close this and jump back in. So you talk to the folks for a bit, and I'll try to do it.
Okay. All right. So while that happens, I'll go ahead and kind of give my brief summary of basically what I envision, what I wanted to happen. And once I stumbled upon this, I was like, wow, I was really disappointed that this didn't actually happen because this is something that was actually planned for one of the theme parks. And I'm going to tease it a little bit and then do a big reveal. Hopefully by that time, Thomas gets back on here. All right. Well, I'd see you're back. Did it work?
Yes, I was. Does it sound a little better now?
I think it does.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't hear myself again. Yeah, no, I don't hear myself anymore. Perfect. All right.
Excellent. It was so funny because I was so nervous that I cut myself off the feed entirely. So I pulled it up on my phone, and then I saw you talking. So I was like, he's still on the air. I just got to find a way to get back on.
Okay, perfect. Good.
All right. So go ahead. I apologize.
So I don't know if you heard, but I'm going to. I don't know if you ever knew about this. So I'm going to tease it a little bit, so basically this is something that was planned for a theme park, but never came to fruition for whatever reason. Imagine, if you will, one of the most impressive never-built lands at a Disney park. It's incredibly dynamic, comprised of two very different but very complementary sublands. Upon entering this land, you would be presented with two very different paths. To the left, a winding, dark, forested passage, littered with the remains of charred suits of armor, lances plunged into the ground, and steamy vents. This dark and earthy path leads to the base of a crumbling stone tower. We'll start there, following the darkly wooded path of creepy vines and medieval lanterns. Emerging from the forest, you'd be surrounded in a medieval village of cold stone pubs and thatch-roofed markets, all lit by flaming torches as jagged dark rocks jut out of the ground. This hamlet, strangely warm and welcoming for its bleakness, would be overseen by a twisted, sinister castle and a Stonehenge-style plaza. This is the land's most recognizable dark icon, Dragon's Tower. Inside is an e-ticket dark ride roller coaster hybrid through the Dragon's Keep, past its gold stores, and along the bat-filled rocky corridors of the surrounding caves. Dragon's Tower would be a true thrill ride, braved only by those who like their roller coasters to pack a punch, like Universal's Revenge of the Mummy. Dragon's Tower would likely have been a dark ride coaster hybrid, passing through dark caverns, ancient collapsing chambers, and even the dreaded Dragon's Den. Some artwork instead depicts the ride as an inverted coaster, more along the line of Kings Island's Banshee, or even a swinging suspended coaster like Cedar Point's Iron Dragon. In this later concept, guests would have joined a host of bats bent on stealing the dragon's treasure. Either way, Dragon's Challenge would have been the park's main thrill ride, a role later filled by another attraction that I'm going to omit because it would give it away. But wait, in fairy tales and legends of old, evil never triumphs, so this dark and sinister portion of the land would only be the first half. The second half of it would be something markedly different. And the second half would basically be one of the scenes from Fantasia where you're thinking with the Pegasus and everything. So like the Grecian temples and all of that stuff, and that big light fantasy element with Pegasus. And there's also a quest for the unicorn, which sounds like it would be more. There's partially like one of those slow moving boat rides. So think. Blanking on the name, but the Pandora boat ride, the slow-moving boat ride, or even, and there's also would be like a maze aspect where you would, there's this unicorn that's kind of sets you on a quest, and you have to complete quests within the maze, and you're kind of on this hunt, and it gives you this adventure quest, and it sounds really cool. So how does that sound?
That sounds incredible. Because it also like. You might be in the mood for something a little more adventurous, and you might be in the mood to maybe go do something a little bit more tame. I like it a lot.
Yeah, so there's three different kind of rides that were envisioned. There was the Dragon Coaster and area, which actually later became partially the Dragon Challenge that Universal got. And then there's also the Fantasia Family Boat Ride, and then also the Unicorn Maze. So a lot of this actually ended up making its way over to Islands of Adventure at Universal Orlando in the Lost Continent area.
Oh, wow.
You might kind of recognize some similar themes and that kind of stuff. So if you're ready for the big reveal, this was the planned but never completed Beastly Kingdom that would have been set in Animal Kingdom.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah.
And why did they get rid of it? Why didn't they do it?
You know what went there instead?
Was it
Camp Mini Mickey?
What's that?
What there instead was Camp Mini Mickey.
Is that still there today?
Nope, it got shut down to make way for Avatar.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That would have been really cool.
So according to the article, What Happened, as for Beastly Kingdom, it was always intended to be the hallmark of Animal Kingdom's Phase 2 expansion, certain to open soon after the park itself. In the meantime, Camp Mini Mickey was hastily constructed with a few meet and greet huts and a small theater of bleachers for a show that repurposed old parade floats, which just so happened to be a rousing fan favorite. Camp Mini Mickey's feels very temporary because it was meant to be. but Beastly Kingdom never materialized. A group of Imagineers battling to bring Beastly Kingdom to life were cut to the quick when the dismal opening of Disneyland Paris made Michael Eisner wary of any large-scale investments. Beastly Kingdom was simply too grand. The Imagineers responsible for the concept were so fed up with Disney's cost-cutting ways during the 90s, they took their plans up the road to Disney's biggest competitor, Universal Orlando.
Damn, that's crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
The more you know, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's also why on the Animal Kingdom logo, the big sign at the front of the park, that's why there's a dragon front and center there.
Because that's where it was supposed to be. Wow,
yeah, because that's where it's supposed to be. And also, there's still a few remnants of it as well. If that's why there's a unicorn. That's why one of the parking lots is named Unicorn, as an allusion to that. It was supposed to be, like just fully included, but they built the unicorn sign already, so they weren't going to take it away, so they left it there. So one of the parking lots, how, like, oh, remember where you parked? You're in Unicorn 21 to 29. And there's a couple of other things, like over the front, the big banner, you also see a dragon's head, and a couple of other details that are kind of now hidden and kind of forgotten about in the park. But it was originally supposed to be a huge part of the park.
That is crazy. Wow. Very cool. That would be awesome. It's a shame it never happened.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's when I heard about it, I was like, wow, it's amazing that this never happened. Like I got really upset that it never happened, because that would have been so cool.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. Well, my next attraction here is kind of appealing to the hardcore Disney fan. The fan that maybe like myself, I don't know if I'm a hardcore Disney fan, but I mean, we do a podcast every week, so I'm getting there. Who maybe gets a little excited when they see Gadget's Go Coaster, and the attraction would be entitled Mickey's Long Lost Friend's Dream. And the idea behind this would be kind of similar to, Crush's. Crush has the spin cycle deal down in Disneyland Paris that made me about as sick as a dog when I went down there. Be similar to that, so you can have a little bit of that, but also like you're seeing all these different Mickey's long lost friends coming at you. So you basically have Darkwing Duck. You basically have name them, somebody who used to be there in the parks and they're no longer there, and you're basically bumping into all these old characters as you're going through. Somebody super obscure, and you can kind of filter characters in and out too. If you have like a screen or something, it's very easy to do that, so you never know who you're going to bump into. And you start kind of in the little waiting area is Mickey's going to bed type deal, and then in the end, Minnie Mouse wakes him up, and he wakes up with all of his current incarnation of friends like Woody, Buzz Lightyear, and the like. I don't know if he has friends.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you would go in the opposite way of what was rumored to be the PhilharMagic reimagining, where they want to update it, but you want to go back and say, okay, let's get some of these lesser known characters and give them their due.
Exactly. I love PhilharMagic because it combines different characters from kind of all different walks of life, and so you're seeing Mickey and Donald and all those guys. Kind of Donald's in The Little Mermaid and in The Lion King. I love that stuff because you're kind of getting that full Disney experience. At the end of the day, there's only so many times you can go and do it, but you're still getting that full Disney experience. And so anything that combines worlds, like I think that's super cool, and I don't think there's nearly enough of it.
Yeah, I think that sounds really cool too.
Yeah. All right. Do you have one that's on the docket now?
I do, and this is going to be a little bit even more, I guess, vague, I should say. And it kind of goes without saying, so I won't spend too much time on it. But we've heard rumors for years of a villains-centered theme park, to do like a fifth theme park and have it be villains themed. I just think that would be the best thing, because I love me some villains, and to walk, and I love the darker side, and you can do so much with it. And just if you just want to do it about just either from the villain's perspective with like Maleficent maybe doing front and center, or you just want to say maybe make the theme that it was supposed to be, or maybe it's like a twisted version of the Magic Kingdom, and it's the Magic Kingdom if the villains won and the villains took over everything, and just make it all that the whole thing as the villains took over. I think that would be the coolest thing.
That would be awesome. Yeah, there needs to be. I love the rumored villain park. I think it would do really well. The only thing that I have concern over is because I remember years ago, Ari and I wanted to do the villains party. Is that something that existed?
There was a villains dance party. Yeah, it didn't really do well.
It didn't do well. So that's my only concern is maybe there are kids who are too afraid of the villains. So that maybe like you said, maybe an attraction would actually be better for something like that. Because kids might be afraid of villains. But I will say kids seem to absolutely eat up villains whenever I see them at the parks and love them very much. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, so, I mean, what happened the first time they did the villains, the Night of Villains or whatever it was a logistical nightmare. Like they, because nobody knew how big it was going to be because it was just a random night and it was, okay, it's Villains Night. So we're just going to go ahead and say, okay, it's Villains Night. Not a separate ticketed attraction, not anything. It's just special one night only, and it's going to have all of this special stuff. And Hollywood Studios was not prepared for it to be that many more people, and there were crazy lines for all of the different meet and greet characters and everything, because they were pulling some really rare villains out of the woodwork that you never, ever, ever get to meet and greet. And so there were all of the lines, and like nobody knew what the lines were for, and it was just a complete mess. So they said, okay, well, it's super popular, but let's try and actually figure this out. And then they said, okay, what we'll do is we'll make it a separate ticketed attraction. So think like Mickey's, not just Scary Halloween Party or the Christmas Party or some of these other special hard ticket events where you need a separate ticket to get into it. And not a lot of people showed up. So they said, okay, let's kind of maybe meet in the middle, and we're going to do a special dance party, like a special maybe dessert party or whatever, that's after hours, and it's not going to be as much as the other ticketed thing, but you'll still get a lot of the stuff that you normally would get with this other stuff. And it also wasn't really that popular, so they still had to kind of do away with it.
There you go. Wow, that's pretty. That's why you're one hell of a co-host with just popping out knowledge. And once in a while, I'm just sitting here blown away. So
I mean, some of it was personal experience. So I was there that first Villains Night, and we got so frustrated with everything, we just had to leave early because it was so like it was a cluster, and it was just like not worth it.
Was Judge Frollo there?
He was. I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw his hat somewhere.
There you go. It sounds insane. That does sound completely crazy. But good stuff.
Yeah.
I had two more here, but I'll certainly hit you with one of them. A roller coaster attraction, and it will be entitled WWE Then, Now, Forever. That's right. I tried to kind of bring the cartoon world of WWE into the parks. I've been looking for a reason to do this for a while now, and to have that WWE-like attraction. And I feel like it could really be modeled. It could be the answer to the Incredicoaster in Disney World, in WDW. You could stick it in Hollywood Studios or even in Epcot. Have it something a little outside the box. I'd argue people care more about that than they do about Avatar, but I might be wrong on that. And you would start off, you'd go through, and as you were walking in, you'd see a slew of memorabilia. So this line, you can just go up and down. You'd see a bunch of Hall of Famers. You'd see all the plaques. You'd see all of the newer type merchandise, and it would get more modern as you continue on. Then you get on the roller coaster, and the roller coaster would slow down a couple times, because the way the Incredicoaster works, if you don't know, is like you go on this roller coaster and you slow down a little bit here and there as you go through to see some of the animatronics and to follow along with the Incredibles deal that is going on, the storyline there. So as you're doing this, you could kind of go through and see type of deal where basically you start off and you slow down, you go see your Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Roddy Pipers. You're going through the midway, you're going through DX and Stone Cold and The Rock and all those guys, and then you end up with the Forever portion, which goes from like John Cena to Roman Reigns, and then ends up with like, are you the next WWE superstar? And you could even do a deal where somebody poses for a photo and then they show that person and their face holding up the WWE belt. And of course, you'd end up in WWE shop because that's how you roll in Disney. So bringing everything at once here, I could only hope. Hopefully there's an adjoining restaurant and I can move to Orlando, I'll be the happiest guy around.
I mean, it sounds pretty cool. That almost sounds more like something that would happen more at Universal Studios because they have, and maybe, it would, they do have that thing with TNA, so maybe it wouldn't be able to work for WWE. That sounds a little bit more like a Universal thing for some reason.
It was rumored for a number of years that when WWE returned to Orlando, not this year, but I guess it was last year, 2017. And basically, what ended up happening was it was supposed to be the years prior. They had a big press conference to announce that WWE was returning to Orlando, and the hope was that there was going to be a WWE restaurant / Hall of Fame that was going to be joining Universal City. And it just never came out. And that was actually for a brief period. TNA, I don't think, was even filming down in Universal because I don't think they could have afforded it. The company struggled a little bit. I mean, now they're throwing the comeback, but for a while, things were a little rough. So they actually were out of the Universal for a bit, and that was the rumor that WWE was going to come in. Just never came to fruition, but it would have been cool. It makes a lot of sense. WWE's entire performance center is down there in Orlando, and the larger than life characters of the PG world that is WWE now, it just makes sense for them to have something down there and have some sort of presence. So I guess remains to be seen there.
Yeah, it's true. No, I would love to see it too.
It would be awesome. Then I'd move down to Orlando, and we can do this. We can do this show down sitting next to each other every week, which would be cool. So do you have any more attractions on your list?
The last thing, and again, I'm getting even more vague here. The only thing that I'm looking for would be more quote unquote original rides. So when I think original rides, I'm thinking things that haven't been a movie or a TV show or anything like that. Some of the best icons that we've gotten from the parks have been original rides. Even Pirates of the Caribbean. It was originally a Disney ride that got turned into this huge franchise. The Haunted Mansion, huge, now there's merchandise for it everywhere. And, you got Neil Patrick Harris and his family dressing up as the Hitchhiking Ghosts. You can't get much bigger than that. Something, Space Mountain, Splash Mountain, maybe not Splash Mountain. Okay. But like Big Thunder Mountain, the list goes on as far as like the unique attractions that originated in the parks that then expanded into the pop culture world. So I would love to see some sort of original ride that's not already based on a movie or a TV show or some other sort of IP already.
That is really cool. I agree. I think they do need something like that, something that's out there, and then they could spin it off to a movie. Because you're 100% right. Pirates of the Caribbean did start as an attraction and became a really big deal. So is that the conclusion of your list? That is
the conclusion of my list now. Yeah.
Mine's pretty much done. I was between the WWE one and one that I had that was basically centered around the dogs of Disney. And the idea behind it was going to be kind of like a Dumbo type attraction, but except there's like 3 different ways that you can do it. So you can go on one that goes up and down. You can go on one that goes into a complete darkness and you're just going around in dark and blah, blah, blah. Or you can do one that has like a water element to it where you go in there and you can basically choose if you want to get wet or if you want to try to avoid we have to try to avoid the water, do different things like that. Which I think they actually have something like that, I want to say in Legoland in Orlando or maybe in California, but it's a lot of fun. I feel like we did it somewhere. If anyone knows, let me know. We did the California Fast Pass, and definitely they had a ride like that I thought was fun. You can put all 3 elements in there, and instead of like the Dumbo cart, each one of them represents a famous dog in Disney history. You could have your Pluto. It could be Pluto's attraction. He doesn't really have one. It could be Pluto. One could be, Max, I guess. Max is his dog, right?
I mean, if Goofy counts as a dog, then Max would count as a dog, yeah.
League of
I'm actually talking about Max from The Little Mermaid pulling out the dogs from the woodwork here.
Oh, there you go. You could be Max from The Little Mermaid. You could be Lady and the Tramp. Pull out the dogs that went to heaven. You could have a hell of a time.
That wasn't Disney.
Wasn't Disney, so it would even be more random to have those. You know what it was? Because like growing up as a kid, I had all those like animated Disney, like those big like Disney cassette videos.
Oh yeah.
That my mom refuses to get rid of because she thinks that at some point they're going to be like worth tons and tons of money. I guess she's thinking VCRs are coming back at some point. But I always had all the Disney ones, and All Dogs Go to Heaven was like right there with them. So I always just thought it was there too.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. That's it. Thank God you told me and didn't let me have that. Well, it would have been a tough one. So, but there's plenty of dogs you could have there, and you could have each one of the pods be a different dog, and go from there. So that's basically it for me, though.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty solid list too, though. I
like that list, and what we're going to do, not next week, but in the weeks follow, is we're going to take these attractions that we put together this week. It's a series here. You guys will have to tune in a couple of weeks and see which attractions we're taking out of the parks to replace them with our attractions. So there'll be attractions or shows or something in the parks that we're over, that we're ready to throw away, that we've seen enough of, that we've imagined so many times that we can't imagine ever again. Just to give you guys a little preview there. But we'll have to see how it goes. But next week, get ready. We're going to be doing our big holiday extravaganza. I saw a great little picture someone put up today. It said October 31st. There's a picture of the lady from Hocus Pocus, and it said November 1st, no more time for Hocus Pocus, and it had a picture of Chevy Chase wearing the Christmas hat from Christmas Vacation. Mm-hmm. So it is indeed time for the holidays, and we will get you guys geared up for all things holidays in the parks next week on Disney 101. Before we get out of here, Steve, is there anything you'd like to say?
No, just everyone have a magical week, and we'll see you real soon.
Absolutely, and again, it was a lot of fun this week. So thanks so much for tuning in. Before I let you go, Steve, do I have a prediction on the maybe the Super Bowl preview tonight or the AFC Championship? No, Super Bowl preview. The Oakland Raiders and the San Francisco 49ers. Who's taking that one?
Oof, battle. It's going to be a barn burner. I have to say, I have to pick a team. I mean, we've gotten a couple of ties already, so it could be a tie game.
Might be.
I mean, I'm going to say it's a tie. I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to say it's a tie.
I can't imagine both teams with one solid win on the year, and I guess we'll see how the night unfolds. But until next time, everybody, you can follow us over at Disney 101 Pod. If you like what you see, make sure you leave a like and hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys again next week on Disney 101.